Hi guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and today I'll be showing you my build for Last Epoch Cycle Season 1 Hardcore Sentinel Void Knight. Let's get into it. Here's the bad boy themselves, my Sentinel Void Knight. So let's go into some of the skills I focused on early on. Obviously, warpath was the first one. Great move. You can't get stunned while you're using it. You spin around. Everybody loves being a Beyblade. So I kind of focused on very early in the beginning, warpath and rebuke. Rebuke is basically my defensive move if I was getting overwhelmed by enemies, or if I was low on health, or even low on mana and I need to recharge it. Rebuke and warpath. Warpath and then rebuke when I need to regain the mana. And then I focused on lunge. Lunge is the move to get into combat. So starting off, you want to go focus on warpath, rebuke. Now, I use lunge a lot. I don't know if you want to put the lunge as your third spec you want to go into. I would actually say Erasing Strike, because as much as lunge is very cool, I think Erasing Strike is a lot better. Obviously, that's when I specialized into Void Knight, and then I started using Erasing Strike, and eventually, actually, I got Void Cleave a lot. Yeah, then I realized, when do you actually even get Void Cleave? Oh no, it's a two-handed? Oh, it's just a two-handed skill. Yeah, so I managed to get a very good two-handed weapon. This wasn't the original weapon, it was a two-handed mace, so two-handed weapons, this is the kind of build we're going for, and I was using two-handed for a lot of this run anyway. But yeah, warpath, spinning around. For points, starting off with the Sentinel, I just went all in on strength. Obviously a little bit for vitality and overwhelm, because we want melee physical damage and we want to stun enemies. And then I moved into Retribution, which is basically a sort of counter-attack to do some extra damage. And then Retribution damage increase. I'm not sure if I would recommend going down this path, maybe getting some armor. Block effectiveness would also be quite good, and maybe instead of doing this path, go down this path, because really, we want to be killing enemies before they even damage us. So maybe if you were to do it, I would possibly say go down this path instead. Or, to be fair, when you use revenge, right? We're not doing any of that. So yeah, quite honestly, yeah, just go down this path. To be fair, I would say go down this path instead of going up this path. But keep that at 5. Once we unlocked Void Knight, I put a lot of points into this, some points into this. Smite turning into Void doesn't really matter. I wasn't really using Smite at all, but mainly I was using this to unlock that. So maybe you don't need, well, you do need to put 2 points into it to get that, but focus mainly on health and defense if you're doing this. So Abyssal Endurance, World Eater, Sword and Jarvis, basically to increase my physical damage and void damage. We'll get into the specialization skills tree in a second. That will go into reasons. Also, my gear go into reasons why I mainly really heavily focus on void. But once I unlocked the ability to put points into this, I went straight into this, because strength is the main thing you're going to be using your DPS for. Strength, basically, I think also strength. Yeah, strength also increases your armor Sorry. It also improves your skills that rely on raw strength and your companions, and it also increases armor. So it's good. Increase armor. So obviously I put a lot of points into strength because I wanted to increase my armor. As you can see on this bit, I also put a lot of points into strength. So also fire resistance is very good. Void resistance is very good. So yeah, strength and health, just keep the health up. Also, you could play around with this, to be fair. Depending on how much damage you do, you might want to put a few points into this or a few points into this. But I would definitely recommend you want to do melee damage, least just health, and void damage, least just health. I may increase this a little bit later on, but yeah, you definitely want to have a lot of health and be able to get health back, and also you know, we want to do some void damage. Eventually, I wanted to try out... I don't know why I put points into this. I'm going to be perfectly honest. This was mainly experimenting around. Yeah, I wanted to get points into vitality. What is this? Time Rot is a lane that deals 55 void damage over time, increases stun duration by 5 seconds lost. Many attacks have a chance to inflict Time Rot. Okay, maybe it was just I didn't get a higher stun chance, but again, I won't move in points into vitality because increasing vitality increases your poison resistance and neurotic resistance. So putting points into vitality is pretty good once you've unlocked that. And mainly I wanted to see the shield as well, see what that's about. It reduces 10% taken damage, and then when it does 100 damage, it does an extra attack. Not really massive big deal. I would say points into vitality is definitely important, and points into strength, getting this early on. And then once you've kind of got those maxed out, maybe you want to put points into these. But that's the early build. Just go down this path instead. Blocking and gaining blocks, I think that's a lot better than doing extra damage, especially Retribution. Now I'm just literally one-shotting everything, so it doesn't even matter. Alright, on to skills. As I mentioned before, early on you want to focus on warpath, lunge, and rebuke. Once you get your two-handed weapon, you can use void cleave. I didn't start using void cleave until later on, because I was kind of using... What was I using before? I don't know. I used a lot of hammer throw just in case the enemy was doing area of effect damage and I didn't want to be in it. But now I'm not fussed. As soon as you got Void Knight, Erasing Strike, that is my big DPS, big damage, just destroy areas. But let's get into warpath, because this is the first bit you should go down. Essentially, I went down this mana route because I wanted to try and be spinning around as much as possible. So going down this route helped out a lot. Obviously, I was going down the double-handed route because of the weapon I picked up, which was a two-handed mace, which scaled with my level because it increased my strength and like some other stat by 1 point per level. So obviously, as you leveled up, it would get better and better and better until I found this sword, which was insane, but we'll get into that in a second. So going down this path, I recommend two-handed weapons. Depending on the weapon, you can do extra damage. I have a sword, so my global base critical chance of a sword is plus 2%. You can increase this if you want. Maybe you don't want to put as much mana points into this. This basically says every time you're spinning, you gain back 21 mana. It's pretty useful. Let's say you're fighting an enemy and your like mana drops down to 0 and you want to use one of your other spells. Well, fret not, because basically you can see your mana go up by 21. You can immediately stop spinning around and then attack. While you're using warpath, you can't actually gain mana, which is why I was looking into something like this, where warpath costs less mana per second, -2 channeling costs, so now it only costs 1 mana. And you can basically make it cost significantly less, but you have less elemental resistance, which some areas you can easily get one shot by enemies that do like fire damage or ice damage at the moment for me. So I completely ignore this, but at first I just went down this path and then got this and then got this later. And then once I realized I was going all in on the void because of this sword, I started going down this path. So these last 4 over here are the most recent points I've allocated. I may do more, may go further down this path, to be fair. But because of this sword, I go for all in on 4 void damage. Next up, the next thing I specialize in is rebuke, because like this is my safety net. So I went down the mana regen first. I think I put like a cup. Actually, no, at first I went down here and I was kind of dividing them between these two because mana regen was a massive problem early on. I was spinning around a lot, but obviously my mana regen isn't that high, so I would just go into rebuke just to get my mana back, which is what I used it for. The health regen is also quite useful. And I basically at first went like this, ignored my armor plating because obviously I'm a warrior. I have a lot of strength, so I shouldn't have to worry about my armor. But eventually I put equal amount of points into this. The burst of speed haste is really good because you rebuke out. You can either get away from a situation or immediately get back in and start wrecking havoc. And yeah, just what is this? Just give me more protection. I'm not sure where else to go on this. I might finish these guys off and give my health regen. I can or go down here and does additional void. So I might go down here. Now I've seen this and just start doing void damage for later in the game. But early game, this is the way I went. Rebuke using myself to heal. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, lunge, I would say you don't have to put it as your first spec. I would say once you get Void Knight, spec into a Raising Strike, because holy jeebles, if you're able to do a lot of void damage and have stuff that improves your void damage, this is a skill for you. But anyway, I went into lunge. The reason why it's a lot lower level than these guys is because I accidentally, instead of respecking to remove points, I despecialized the skill. Luckily, lunge, well, this late in the game, well, this middle in the game, you can get the points back up quite quickly, and lunge is mainly just a utility skill. It gets me into the fight. I originally went down this way, so focused on this to get the activations back up as quickly, then do some extra damage, and then do some extra damage. This was mainly so I can get down here. I did try out this skill for a while and it didn't really seem to be doing much. This was very good because I liked going to the frenzy, do some extra damage. Obviously turning into void damage was, you know, going around with my whole build is basically do as much void damage as you can. And this was really good because obviously we're using Erasing Strike and Void Cleave. This basically means you have a chance of, if you kill an enemy, it resets Void Cleave and Erasing Strike. Void Cleave, you can do 2 hits at a time, which I didn't know for a while, but I ain't no amateur, so you can do 2 swings. Mainly it's good for Erasing Strike because you kill some enemies and you see another group of enemies, you dash into them, or maybe you've Raising Strike and not quite dead yet, you can hit your lunge, kill another enemy, and then immediately you can Raising Strike. But you don't have to focus on lunge straight away if you don't want to. I would say go into a Raising Strike is far more important. This is a great AoE attack. Now, a lot of these are actually great AoE attacks. Warpath, you're spinning around, hitting a load of stuff. Void Cleave does a nice swing. But a Raising Strike kills so much enemies. It's just you just see a group of ads and they're gone, erased from existence. So I basically didn't know really what to do with this at first. I hadn't had a lot of experience with speccing into Void Knight. My first Sentinel was a Paladin, which died at level 20 in hardcore, or level 22. I blame God King Mew for that. If you know, you know, but check out my first impressions of Last Epoch. The video should be in this playlist. Anyway, I specced into this twice, mainly because I want to do more void damage. I want to do more melee void damage, and obviously I'm using a double-handed weapon, so it works out. Healing gained on kill, healing gained on a boss hit. A lot of the time you're going to struggle with the bosses because they're just, some bosses just do AoE area damage, or they do a lightning strike and you just got to stand there and either wait. But at least with using a Erasing Strike, you're able to get some health back. Haste is pretty nice. Move around, it's great. This is the main thing, the Ravenous Void. I love this. So basically, if you kill 5 or more enemies, you create this beam that creates some damaging around the area in case other enemies come in. But mainly, the reason I did it was so I could go down this way. I put 1 point into this so I can immediately get Erasing Strikes on enemies you have chance to... This is basically the same as that, but instead of guaranteeing if you hit 5, you get the beam, this is like if you kill an enemy, you get a chance to create the beam. But mainly, I put 1 point in there and then went straight in, all in on this. So it was like 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 2, 2. I think maybe I put a bit of extra points in there. I may have put 2 points in there. I may have maxed it out before I went down this path. But by the time I put Erasing Striking this slot, I obviously had a lot more points because it's later in the game, and the later you unlock these specializations, the more points they give you to start off with. I think it's like 5. So I pretty much went down here pretty quickly. Having a beam that constantly damages the boss is great because you Void Strike, it starts hitting the beam, and I've got it set to 100% chance, so I can just hit an elite enemy, I can hit a boss, and then start spinning around, or rebuke if I need some defense. Basically, it just allows me a chance to actually kill the boss and do some extra damage, because a lot of the time, I'm not gonna lie, because I didn't go too much into the defense side early on and blocking, I take a lot of damage and I don't heal a lot back. So obviously maybe going something like this and getting more heals with this would probably be the better option. So yeah, that's basically the skills and everything, focusing on warpath, rebuke, and then once you've unlocked your Void Knight, go Raging Strike, lunge. You don't have to do it the way I did it. It's just because I used lunge on my paladin, and I was used to the skill. But a Raging Strike, pretty powerful. Eventually I'm going to unlock cleave. I don't know if you want to do cleave before lunge, because lunge is a great utility, and having that frenzy really helps out a lot. Plus you can set up some heals as well. But we'll get to lunge later in the game. For equipment, the whole point of me going completely balls into void was these 2 items. This just gives me increased void damage by 50%, a chance to create a void rift when you hit an enemy for 2 seconds, 20% chance to avoid time rot, and critical strike chance with void kills, because this counts as void. This counts as void, and I guess this technically counts as void because it does void damage, but it's not a void skill, so it's mainly these 2. And this sword, plus 30 melee damage, but plus 40 melee void damage, plus 40 void penetration, and gain some stuff on block and slightly block effectiveness. Again, if I went down the other path, that would massively help out. But yeah, just having this sword, I'm just doing so much void damage, it's insane. The flower's mainly just for mana regen, and I haven't really found a good relic to equip there. These boots also again do plus 10 melee void damage, increased void damage, so we're really having void damage. This is mainly poison, and it just increases my melee attack speed. As soon as I find a better belt that has more potion slots and more attack speed, I'm probably going to equip it. Dodge rate's pretty decent, but it's the only thing that's increasing my dodge rate, so I get hit a lot. This is mainly just to increase my critical strikes. Again, it was just a decent ring. And this is mainly this is my only resistance to cold. I get +1 to all attributes. It's not really meant for this build. I don't even use swipe, but good for cold resistance, +1 to all attributes, and a couple of mana. Hopefully I'll find some better gloves later on, even some yellow ones, but nothing yet. And my medics are rarely related to void, chance to slow with void skills, 4% chance to void rift on kill. This just does 13% more hit damage. If it's the only one, you get this as a storyline thing anyway. 10 armor, but mainly it's the void damage, poison resist, physical damage. I might get rid of the poison one because there's no minions of poison, and just replace it with a frozen one. Depending on the area we're in the game, you probably want to switch around these terms for resistances. And again, it has a 20% increased stun chance, but mainly I am just erasing striking enemies out of existence before they even get a chance to stun. For bosses it's fine, for elites it's fine, but a lot of the time it's just hit once, spin around, or cleave, hit once, lunge, cleave, whatever. But yeah, a lot of the time you're just going to be seeing a group of ads, cleave it, and if they're still alive, you spin around. So that's the build. Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Do you like it? You should be seeing some gameplay now of me spinning around. You should have seen some after the intro as well. I might have created a little montage for you guys to show it off. Again, this is fine against regular enemies. You're just going to plow through them, even some elites and mini bosses. But when it comes to some bosses, you're going to have a harder time. It's just I spec'd wrong. I'm just gonna admit it, I spec'd wrong. Go more defense. The damage is there, it's fine, but it's just if I get hit, I get a little hurt. But with Rebuke, you can survive a lot. There was a bit when playing with this class earlier on in this desert level, I got poisoned. I got this like shredded where my poison resistance is just gone. So I was bleeding out, and I just went into Rebuke with like 20 hit points left and gained a load back and managed to do some extra damage on getting out of Rebuke, because yes, Rebuke does damage as well. It's great. It's a defensive spell. It costs nothing. Yes, it has a cooldown of 8 seconds, but you're mainly using it to get the mana back, get some health back, and a lot of the time, just enemies just start hitting you with it, and they just kill themselves. So it's great. But yeah, overall, this class is fun. You're just using a Razing Strike. It's a bit difficult with bosses, but again, you're gonna take your time, movement. If you feel very comfortable with fighting and up close and personal these types of games and like attacking them with physicals, if you mainly play spells and long range classes, this may not be for you, because it wants to be right up close to the enemy, and it's gonna get a few hits, and hopefully you can get their health back by attacking it. If you don't like the sound of that, then maybe don't play this class, but it's a lot of fun. I do like a Razing Strike. Originally, it was just going to be a meme of just warpathing. It is nice now that on my warpath skill, it does create like a little shadow clone sometimes, and it does pop up a lot. The Void Knight's class does have this passive ability where there's like a older version of you that does the attack beforehand, and it can happen, but a lot of the time it happens after you've killed a group of enemies, so it's no point. But with it on the warpath now, with its own special skill perk or specialization on the warpath, it does happen a lot more, and it helps out with doing extra damage elites, because there's a version of me that's still there doing damage. Anyway, like I said, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave a dislike. Comment below what you think of this build. Let me know where I've gone wrong. Let me know where, if it's inspired you to go with your own Void Knight. Yes, the whole crutch of this build is around the sword and the boots, but I'm pretty sure you can find stuff with extra void damage as well. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.
Morse. Marvelous. Together on the track. Let's go. Red sus, red sus. Red sus, red sus. Red sus, red sus. Red sus, sus. Red sus, red sus. Red sus, red sus. Red sus, red sus. Red sus, sus.